stuffy will it be today?
Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we are starting painting, and our stuffy for today is a Webkinz lion. Yay! So we're going to start off with talking about how to approach painting. So you will need, for this video, the supplies you'll need is some type of material to paint on. You can get a canvas, piece of paper. You'll need paintbrushes, paint, a water cup, some type of napkin or towel, and you can even use a painting tray if you would like. And then we're going to start with something called blocking. So we're going to look just like we did in the drawing lesson at all the different shapes that we see in our stuffy in order to start to block him, mark him down onto the canvas. And just like in our painting or drawing assignment, we need to figure out the size that he's going to be so he's not too tiny or not too big. So we got to think about those balloon animals. What is that going to look like to start marking him in? So I'm going to get a basic color to lay down onto my canvas. So I'm going to pick out a yellowy color, and you can pick all kinds of different brush sizes and shapes to start blocking it in. And again, we're going to look at that lion and we're going to start thinking about what are those shapes. And for his head, we see a nice big circle. So we're going to first mark in a circle. And again, we don't want to go too tiny or too big. And again, with painting, it's actually a little nicer than with drawing, because you can just paint right over your drawing if you don't like what you did, and just basically getting in those shapes. So first shape, circle. Then his body is kind of hidden in there, but he has, another circle, oval type shape for a body. And then we're going to put in those shapes, and I'm going to dip my brush into some water so that paint moves around a little bit more free. When you're using something called acrylics, you will use water as your medium or your element to make it a little more smooth and fluid. You could paint with oil paints, but for children, I don't usually recommend it because it requires different types of chemicals to work with. You could use watercolors if you wanted also, so it doesn't have to be acrylics. And you can use something called temperas, which is a washable paint, which is also really good, especially for littles, so that when you're painting and you accidentally get it on your clothes, it'll wash out. An acrylic paint will ruin, or not ruin, but can stain your clothes. Sometimes it'll come out. So I would recommend putting on a paint shirt or putting on paint clothes that you might not want to, that you don't care if it gets a little messy. And then once you have your circle and your body, then you can start adding the details like legs. So his legs are kind of like teardrop shapes almost. So you can add those in, and I'm going to actually pull them off of the body so that you can see them a little bit better. And right now we're not worrying about shadows. Right now we're just trying to get in our shape. So everything's gonna kind of blend a little bit, but then we're gonna start using all kinds of different colors to change so that all the areas so that you can see this is the head, these are the legs, that's the body. So that's just basic right in there. And then I like to block in the whole painting. I like to put in the background as I'm doing his shape, but for right now I think I'm just going to concentrate on him, and then I'll block in sky and ground because right now he's floating in outer space and we want to make sure that he has a place to live. So now we're going to pick different colors, because what I tell my students is when you look at your stuffy, when it hits the light, he's not going to be just one color. He's going to be different shades of colors. It's not just one yellow. There's going to be maybe a little bit of orange in there, a little bit of brown, and then you'll even have your highlights and your shadows. So first we're going to just do shades of color. So I might grab some brown. And with these, this is a good time to use your palette and put in different types of paint in there so that you can mix in your palette. So maybe if my guest artist can put a little brown into that palette for me, you might have to squeeze it or use a brush to get it out, and then you could add in some white And maybe we'll put even a little bit of orange in there. See if I could do it without squirting it everywhere. Now I'm going to add in some different colors in there. So I'm going to put a little bit of orange in there. At the same time I'm adding in some orange, I'm going to make sure that I don't now completely change them to orange. I'm going to add in back some of that yellow. And you may want to wash your paintbrush as you're going between colors, so that way you don't take and change your yellow then to another color. You want to keep your yellows yellows. You want everything to stay what the colors are supposed to be. So I might do that. Can I have one of those napkins, please? Okay. Now, again, I'm going to dip into my yellow. Add my yellow back on there. So if you'll see, I am adding in different colors into that lion. And don't worry about all those fuzzies that you see on him. That's going to happen later where we'll add texture. We first need to blacken our shapes, then we have to add in our colors, and then the next thing we're going to do are highlights. So we're going to look to see where that light source is. Where are the white parts going to hit when the light comes down? You're going to see that it's going to be lighter, and then like underneath here you're going to see all those little shadows under there. So we got to start adding those in, and we want to do it gently because we don't want to end up putting a bunch of dark in there and then we'll have to wait for it to dry a little bit to change its colors. So I'm going to start off with brown. I always leave black for last because once you start adding black in, it's really hard to start to change it. Black can take over and it can get really messy. So we're going to start off with just adding in those browns for the shadows underneath by his belly. And then again, I want to keep working on blending. So I need to wash my brush before I grab that yellow again because I don't want to put my brown brush into my yellow. So now I'm going to just grab let's grab this brush instead. Maybe I'm going to take this brush. I'm going to take that yellow and I'm going to blend that in there. And you notice that when I'm blending, you can see that some of that brown is picking up, but when I start to move it, it goes away. If it didn't, I just would want to wash my brush so that the brown is not moving when I'm doing that. So now you can see we have a separate space. We have that's his belly, and these are his legs. You'll notice he'll also have a shadow underneath his chin. So we're going to take that brown again and we're going to add a little bit of that underneath his chin. Then we can do some blending. Very nice. Okay. And then even at the bottoms of these legs, we'll want to put in some brown because as he gets closer to the table, that light is going to be underneath those legs. So we're going to put some of that brown under there. And now you'll notice his face is a lighter yellow. So we're going to take that yellow color and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of white. And I'm going to make a lighter yellow. And I think you even have a container of lighter yellow that I might actually grab. And we're going to put that circle that's on his face. So I got to make this a little bit lighter so it's seen. Keep just adding in that color on there. Paint that on his face. And then you'll notice up here you'll have it even lighter, so we have to mix that color. So I'm going to grab even more white so that I can put that white part right there. And then you'll notice we have to then do the shadows for under this section. So I'm going to go back to that brown color. I'm going to put a little bit of brown under his chin, not a whole lot because we're just putting a small shadow under there. And we'll probably even put a small shadow on the side of his face because if the sun was coming from here, he might have a small shadow here. Put a little bit more under his chin. a little bit of blending. Again, you can rinse your brush out, pull another bit of color. And he does have little teeny tiny ears in there, so we need to make sure we mark in those little ears. Little ears, little semicircles in there. And I can even take my brush and just go whoop, my little fan brush, and it'll make the little semicircle for me. Ah, nice job. Okay, so now we're going to put in his pink nose. Do we have pink? Do you want to do the pink? We gotta put in all the details. So we have the colors, we have some shadows and some highlights. Now we're gonna start working in the details, and we're going a little fast. You could take your time, you might go a little bit slower. And working on those details and all those blendings, but we're just doing it just to kind of show the basic of all of this. I'm gonna mark in his pink nose. I could change this pink, I could add a little bit more white in there because that pink is a little darker than the pink on him, but that's okay because we're just practicing. Here's some pink, some pink. Okay, and then the last details are going to be to mark in all of his eyes and all the whiskers and everything. But before I go there, I save all those little tiny details for the very last. I want to put in his background. I don't want to get past this because I want to make sure that all that color is in when I go to do the textures of his fur. So we're going to put in, I'm gonna block in the sky, and you can do anything. He could be living anywhere. So you can put him in a jungle and put green all the way around him. You can have sky around him. He could be living in a house. You can put him all kinds of places. So I'm gonna paint all of that in. And you can also pay attention to your brush strokes. So however you're painting, that will show when you are done. So if you want streaks and strokes to be seen, you can do that. You can do something like what we did with the ears, where we can twirl our brush and make shapes like that into the paint, and do like spirals to make it look like sky. There's a famous artist that I just love, and his name is Vincent Van Gogh, and he gets all kinds of colors on his canvas and makes different spirals in the sky. And he does that to show movement. If there's wind and things like that going on in the sky, or clouds, you can add those in. It's up to you. You could do a night sky and put him in the nighttime with stars all around him. So there he is now on sky, but I don't want to go sky. A lot of people think also sky is just a strip right up here, but sky goes all the way down to the horizon. So you have to fill the whole thing with sky when you do sky. And then I am now going to grab some green. And I'm going to put him on grass. And then again, same with my blue sky and my green grass, I'm going to be looking at different shades. Because blue sky is not just one shade of blue, and green grass is not just one shade of green. So, add in this green, need some more water. Sometimes you'll notice when you go to put the paint on the canvas, it's not wanting to move. And so with acrylics and temperas and watercolors, you can add water to make it move a little bit better. And then you'll also notice you have this edge of your canvas. You can paint the edges also. You can paint them the same color that you see. Some people will trim them in a different color. That's up to you, but you can paint all the way around your canvas. So again, I'm gonna put all that green grass around him. And now I got all that filled in, but again, the green grass is not just green grass. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start putting in the highlights and the shadows as I'm mixing in the different shades of green grasses. So I'm gonna put a big giant shadow where he's sitting on the ground. Because again, my light source is here. I pretend the sun is here, it's casting down a shadow. So I'm going to put the brown underneath him to show the shadow. But I might even put a little bit around in my grass. And I can even flick it upwards to make it look like little blades of grass. And I could switch my brush. This one's called a fan. So I can use this type of fan, or I could get even a bigger fan brush that I have. I have bigger sizes, like this guy. This guy's really big. And I can use him to make the little pieces of green grass like that. Look at all those grasses that are happening. I could use a smaller brush and make little blades of grass. I could even, if I wanted to, I could add in pretty pink little flowers, all kinds of other details. So we're just doing this quickly. We're not gonna spend too much time on it, but there's my green grass. And then again, I wanna switch some colors into my sky. I could add in white clouds. I'm not quite sure what else I would want to do. I'm gonna try and put in some blue, a different shade of blue. And I don't know, we'll see what happens. I'm gonna kind of do a little bit of spiral effect, but I'm gonna go back over it with that turquoise and do some blending. So this, because this was pretty dark. So if I again rinse out my brush, I grab that turquoise color. I'm gonna add that back right over what I did before and kind of go in that spirally wind type of look. Kind of doing that Van Gogh. And you'll notice that some of my canvas is peeking through. This for me, I work in layers where I call it layers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I would go back through once it dried, and I could even add more paint on top. But we're just doing this all in one giant lesson, but I could do that if I wanted to keep adding it so I don't see the canvas all the way through. But this is just a good quick lesson on how to just start getting comfortable with painting. All right, there we go. Then we're going to think about adding in any of those details. So this fan brush is no longer going to work. I need to put that to the side, and I want to get a little detailed brush. I'll have to look through sometimes and pick ones that are even tinier, because some of these might be still too big. And then we're going to start to get out the big colors like black. And again, black is one of those that if it can get messy really quick, but if you make a put it on there, I don't like to use the word mistake. If you put it on there and you don't like it, you can let it dry and paint over it. So we need to look at where those eyeballs are on him, and we're gonna do our best to draw in those eyeballs. And the paint is still a little wet, so it's mixing with some of the paint below. So what I might do is I may have to go back later to darken it. And also I'm gonna put the twinkle in his eye so you can see his twinkle. And then you'll notice on him he has stitching here for his whiskers. And so this paintbrush is really big. I wouldn't probably typically use something this big, but I'm going to just drip the paint on there the best I can without making too big of marks on him. And then he's even has eyebrows. I might not put in his eyebrows. I might leave those out. And then I get to work on the fur. So I'm gonna reach back for that fan brush that I was using, and I gotta clean it up. And if your water gets really messy, like ours is getting messy, then you can go and dump it out and rinse and get fresh water. But I'm going to now take the light yellow and my fan brush. And there's some techniques. One of them is called dry brush, where your paint, if this dried and this is not as wet, then when you make the little flicks, it'll look more, like fur. And again, I'm working on wet right now, and that's why the sky just kind of went into my lion's fur. But if this was a little more dry, I could flick it. So you kind of have to keep cleaning your brush as you go along, as you make all those little furs. You can even get a tiny little paintbrush and make those little furs. So I'm gonna press pause, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna let them dry a little bit, and then we're gonna see if we can try to do some more of that texture on him. So we're We're gonna take a moment. Okay, now that our paintings have dried a little bit, we're going to add in some fur. And so we each have a fan brush. So this is what a fan brush looks like. And my guest artist also has one. And we're going to use a little bit lighter of a yellow color. And we're going to try this dry brush technique. And we'll see if this time if it works. If it doesn't, you're gonna put a little bit of paint on your brush. And you're going to lightly pull, tap and pull, and that's gonna add that fur. And you don't have to do a whole bunch, it's up to you and how much you actually want to do. And again, you can go through the grass and the sky and add in whatever other details that you might want to put in there. And for me, one of the last things I still need to do is the twinkle. So I'm going to use a very fine tip brush and I'm going to dip it in that white paint and then very carefully I'm going to put the twinkle in his eye. And there is my twinkle. And then again, we need to put in some of these whiskers. Whiskers are a little tough because you're gonna tap and pull. And you need to make sure that there's no paint that's really wet so it can pull. And you're gonna try to do a dry brush whisker. That one's a little small. I'm gonna try it again. Pull it out. There we go. That one was better. And we're gonna pull it out. We can try this guy again. Pull it out. Whoop, that one might be a little too much. And again, we're gonna tap and pull. Tap and pull. That one didn't have enough paint. Tap and pull. There we go. And then you can always work in some of the other little things. You could even use this brush to add fur textures. And that might be a little bit more controlled than the fan brush if you don't like the fan brush. You can try that and make a little bit more textures. Alright, so see you can do that if you wanted to. And put in some extra special little pieces of fur on him somewhere. Alright. If I wanted to, I could keep working on him, or I could just say he looks great. We also, while they were drying, we went around and we painted all of the edges so that the canvas was clean. And then we're going to add our signature. So I like to choose the corner and I do my signature with multiple colors. So I'm gonna start off with a dark and I'm gonna sign my name. And then I will pick a color. I will add that on top. I usually go over mine 3 times and then I usually end in white. And then I pull it one more time and then I add my signature. And that finishes my painting. And then my guest artist, are you about there? Mm-hmm. Okay, and then my guest artist, once they're done, they can continue working with adding in all their details and their furs and all their cutiness. Look how adorable that is. Looks just like the Webkins. I love it. And then they'll sign their name in the corner too. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you are having fun with learning how to be a beginner painter. Again, it just takes practice. You're gonna keep working again and again. Just keep playing. I can go over this painting all over again and just add in little details and some more swirls. If I wanted to, I could put swirls in the sky. It's up to you on what you want to do. And then you just keep painting and have fun. So thank you for watching. Bye.